Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next session on Java. So, from the last two classes, we started studying about multi-threading concept. Last before session, we had seen the definitions regarding the multi-threading concept. Especially in the last session, we had studied, we had started learning about the thread life cycle. So in today's class, we are going to see about the remaining part of the thread life cycle. After the completion of thread life cycle, we will see how a thread can be created by using an example in Java program. We all know that we can create threads in Java in two ways: by extending a thread class and by implementing runnable interface. So in today's class, after the completion of this thread life cycle, we are going to see some examples on how we can create threads. And as we discussed in the previous session, we cannot predict, right? We cannot predict the output of a thread program, because when we want the thread to be executed, that thread have to be moved from runnable or ready state to running state. So moving a thread from ready state to running state depends upon CPU scheduling algorithm. So we cannot do anything depending upon the CPU scheduling algorithm. It will take any one thread in the ready state and it will execute that thread. And then when the thread was in running state, right, when the thread was in running state, the thread may be terminated. So the thread may be moved to the dead state, or the thread may move to the waiting state. So what are the different possibilities? If there is one method in thread called as stop, so if we call the stop method on the thread, right, if we call the stop method on the thread, then there is possibility that the thread will move from running state to dead state, or else, right, or else there is one more possibility. If the execution is successful, then the thread will move from running to dead state, right? So there are two possibilities. Either the thread have to complete its execution. For example, I have a thread and I assigned the thread to print the numbers from 1 to 5. So for example, the thread has printed the numbers from 1 to 5. So the thread job is over. Whenever the thread job is over, immediately it is going to move from running state to dead state. That means the execution is successful. Or else in the middle, for example, the thread has printed 1 and 2 numbers. After that, if I call the stop method on that particular thread, then the thread will move to the dead state. Okay, so these are the two possibilities of moving a thread from running to dead state. Okay, from new to ready, we need to call a method called as a start method. I think in the previous session we had seen this one. So we need to call a method called as start method. And then from ready to running, I said that we can call this state as ready or runnable, whatever it may be, right? So from ready to running, it depends upon CPU scheduling algorithm. From running to dead state, there are two possibilities. If we call a stop method, or else if the execution is successful, then the thread is going to be terminated. Now, what the thread have to do in order to move from running to waiting? So see here, see, so how we can move a thread from running to waiting? So we can move a thread from running to waiting, or a thread can be moved from running to waiting automatically when it requires some inputs. When it requires some inputs. For example, I have a thread. The thread name is T1, and this T1 is going to take A comma B values from the input. So I have entered system.out.println, enter A comma B, and I have written A equal to in.nextInt. So the control is waiting for the variable A and the control is waiting for the variable B. So during that waiting time, instead of keeping the thread in the running state, the thread will be moved automatically into the waiting state. Whenever we supply the values of A and B, then the thread will be moved into the ready state. No thread cannot be moved directly from waiting state to running state. So from to running state, there is only possibility that we have to come from the ready state. Okay, we have to come from the ready state. The CPU is eagerly looking at the ready state. What are the different programs that are waiting to be executed in the running state? Okay, so whenever there is some requirement of input values, right, input values, that thread will be automatically moved into the waiting state. Whenever we supply those input values, then the thread will be moved into the ready state. And from ready, depending upon the CPU scheduling, it will be executed. Along with that, along with this automatically moving of thread from running state to this waiting state, we can also move a thread, right? We can also move a thread from running state to waiting state in 3 different ways. Okay, let us see what are those ways. So this is what we concluded in the last session. Now, in today's session, we can suspend a thread in 3 ways. We can suspend a thread in 3 ways. The first one is that depending upon time, the second one is that depending upon a condition, and the third way is that unconditionally. So suspending a thread means bringing the thread from running state to waiting state, right? Running state to waiting state. So we can bring a thread from running state to waiting state in 3 ways, depending upon time, depending upon a condition, and unconditional. Okay, so if we want to bring a thread depending upon time, then we need to use a method called as sleep method. And at the same time, if you want to bring a thread from running state to waiting state depending upon a condition, then we go for join method. And at the same time, if you want to bring a thread from running state to waiting state independent to the condition, that is unconditionally, we go for suspend method. So remember all these names, we are going to use all these names in the program. Okay, sleep method, it is going to bring the thread from running to waiting depending upon a time. For example, if I want to suspend a thread for 1 second, I have to pass 1000 here, which means the 1000 milliseconds. If I want to suspend a thread for 5 seconds, I need to pass 5,000. So now what will happen? So if, for example, it is the ready state, it is the waiting state, and then it is the running state. When we call a thread, for example, there exists a thread called as T1, which is in running state. On the T1, if I call T1 dot sleep of 5,000, right? T1 dot sleep of 5,000, then this T1 thread will be moved into the waiting state. After the 5 seconds of time has been completed, then this T1 will be moved to the ready state. And from the ready state to running state, we cannot predict when it will be done. It depends upon CPU scheduling. When the CPU is very busy, it may take some time to execute the T1. When the CPU is very free, immediately when the T1 arrives into the ready state, it will be executed in the running state. Okay, so sleep is the method which is used to suspend a thread depending upon a time. So the sleep method is going to take a long integer value as an input, where we provide the time in terms of milliseconds. Okay, so when we want to suspend a thread for 10 seconds, we need to pass a value of 10,000 to the sleep method. Okay, right, and then how to suspend a thread depending upon a condition. For example, there exists a thread T1 and there exists a thread T2. What I want to do is, I don't want to complete T2 until and unless T1 is completed. So I don't want to complete T2, right? I don't want to complete T2, which means, for example, let us come to the diagram. So there exist two threads, right? T1 and T2, which are in ready state. We don't know which thread will be executed first and which thread will be executed last. For example, T1 has started its execution, right? T1 has started its execution depending upon the CPU scheduling, and then T1 had successfully completed the execution. So when the successful execution has been completed, T1 will be moved into the dead state. But what I want to have, I want to move T2 into the dead state first, and then I want to move T1 into the dead state. So even though the execution of T1 has been completed first, I don't want to move the T1 to the dead state. So in such case, if I write T1 dot join of T2, T1 dot join of T2, now until and unless T2 moves into the dead state, T1 will not be moved. For example, even though T1 has completed its first execution, because we had written T1 dot join of T2, that after completion of execution also, T1 will be moved into the waiting state, and then T2 will be brought into the running state. After the successful execution of T2 will be moved into the dead state. After that, this T1 will be moved into the ready, or maybe the T1 will be directly moved into the dead state. Okay, so if we want a thread, right, if we want a thread to be suspended depending upon a condition, we go for join. Okay, and then unconditionally. In both the two cases, that is sleep and join, when a thread has been moved into the waiting state by using the sleep method, then that thread will be automatically moved into the ready state after the completion of given time, right? And then when a thread was moved into the waiting state by using join method, automatically it will be moved into the ready state when the condition got satisfied. But when a thread was moved, right, by using suspend, for example, there exists a thread T1, and when we call T1 dot suspend, right? T1 dot suspend, then the thread will be moved into this waiting state, and it will not return to the ready state automatically. Now, what we have to do in order to bring such a thread into the ready state? So see, when we suspend a thread depending upon time, after the completion of time, the thread will be returned to the ready state. When we suspend a thread depending upon condition, after the successful satisfaction of the condition, the thread will be moved from waiting state to the ready state. But now we are suspending a thread unconditionally. There is no time, there is no condition, nothing at all. So when we suspend a thread by using suspend method, the thread will be moved into the waiting state and it will never come back automatically. It will never come back automatically. But what we have to do in order to bring such a thread into the ready state from waiting state, which was suspended by using the suspend method, there is one method called as resume. So if we call T1 dot resume, then the thread will be moved into the ready state. Okay. Then the thread will be moved into the ready state. You can see here. You can see the color combination. You can see the color combination. They had used the suspend. And when the thread was suspended, it will bring back by using resume. When a thread was suspended by using sleep, it will bring back when sleep time is up. When the sleep time is completed, it will be brought back into the ready state. And when we suspend, I will explain this one. Wait and notify, I will explain. And along with this, and in this diagram, they had missed one more thing called as join. We can suspend a thread by using join method. When we suspend a thread by using join method, after the satisfaction of condition is satisfied. When the condition is satisfied, it will automatically move from waiting to ready. Okay, please remember these names. Okay, now let us look at other than these three, in the picture, we are seeing one more thing called as wait. On the left hand side, we are seeing notify all. So what is these methods and what is the use of these methods? So here, all these three methods, okay, all these three methods can be used in non-synchronized blocks. Non-synchronized blocks. Non-synchronized blocks means, for example, there exists a block. It may be a main method or it may be a normal method name or whatever it may be. If this block contains the keyword, synchronized, for example, synchronized void m, it is a synchronized method, or synchronized something, right? So when a block contains synchronized, then it is called as synchronized block. When the block do not contains this synchronized keyword, for example, if the block is having simply void m, then it is called as non-synchronized block. If there is synchronized keyword, it is a synchronized block. If there is no synchronized keyword, it is not a, it is a non-synchronized block. So we can use sleep, or we can use join, or we can use suspend in only non-synchronized blocks. In only non-synchronized blocks. So here void m. So inside this one, we can use sleep method. Inside this one, we can use join method. Inside this one, we can use suspend method. But when you have the synchronized keyword, that is the synchronized block, all these three methods cannot be used in order to bring a thread from running state to waiting state. So what we have to do in order to bring a thread from running to waiting state in synchronized blocks. So in synchronized blocks, right, in synchronized blocks, we are going to use a method called as wait. So that wait method will bring a thread from running state to waiting state inside the synchronized blocks. So what to do when a thread was suspended by wait and I want to bring back the thread into running state? See here, there are two methods, notify and notify all. So wait is the method which is used to bring the thread from running to waiting, and we can use notify or notify all to bring back the thread from waiting to ready. So when we use sleep time, the thread will move from running to waiting, and after the time is up, right? After the time is up, the thread will be moved from waiting to ready. And then when we use the join, after condition is satisfied, right? After condition is satisfied, the thread will automatically move from waiting to ready. And suspend, we have to use the method resume. And for wait, we can use notify or notify all. What is the difference between notify and notify all? So let us assume there are 3 threads, T1, T2, and T3. On the 3 threads which are in the synchronized block, I call the wait method. Let us assume I call the wait method. So T1 dot wait, T2 dot wait, or let us assume T3 dot wait. So I have called the wait method on these 3 threads. For example, if I call T1 dot notify, then only thread 1 will be brought into the ready state from the waiting state. When we call wait, the thread will be moved from running to waiting. When we call notify, the thread will be moved from waiting to ready. See here, when we call wait, the thread will be moved from running to waiting. When we call notify, the thread will be moved from waiting to ready or runnable. Okay, so here when we call T1 dot notify, only one thread is moved, and at the same time, for example, instead of calling T1 dot notify, if I call notify all, then all the threads T1 and T2 and then T3, all the 3 threads will be moved into the ready state at once. So if you want to move one thread, go for notify, and if you want to move all the threads, go for notify all. Okay, remember all these names. Okay, now, okay, remember all these names. So we are going to work on the programs with all these names. Okay, so this is what the life cycle of a thread. So in thread life cycle, right? In thread life cycle, we have 5 states. We have 5 states in thread life cycle. The names of the 5 names are new, ready, running, waiting, and dead state. Okay, new, ready, running, waiting, and dead state. So whenever we create a thread, it will be in the new state. Whenever we call the start method, it will be moved into the ready. Whenever the CPU depending upon the CPU scheduling algorithm, the thread will move from ready to running. And when the successful completion of execution, or when we call the stop method, the thread will be moved into the dead state. And for moving the thread from running to waiting, automatically there is when it requires input and outputs, it will be moved automatically. And by manually, we can move a thread depending upon time, depending upon condition, depending on unconditionally. Those are sleep, join, and suspend methods. And at the same time, we cannot use this sleep, join, and suspend methods inside the synchronized blocks. I will explain. What is the difference between a synchronized block and a non-synchronized block? We will discuss it in the later. Okay, so what happens when we use synchronized block and what happens when we use non-synchronized block, we will discuss later by using an example. So before that, let us discuss. So depending upon a time, that is sleep, depending on a condition, join, and unconditionally suspend. So we can move a thread from running to waiting by using these 3 methods in non-synchronized blocks. Now, what I have to do in order to bring a thread from running to waiting in synchronized blocks. So in synchronized blocks, I need to go for wait method. So if I suspend 10 threads by using wait in synchronized blocks, if I want to bring all the threads at once into the ready state, I go for notify all. And if I want to bring one thread, I go for notify. Okay. And if anybody is having the doubts, you can raise your hands in. If anybody is having the doubts in this thread life cycle, you can raise your hands, or you can keep message in the chat box. I will reply to you. I got one message. What is the difference between synchronized and non-synchronized? Okay, so see here, I will explain about it later by using an example. Just make a note of this point. For example, there is a synchronized void M. There is a synchronized void M. For example, I am assuming three threads are entering into the synchronized blocks. The three threads are T1, T2, T3. So three threads are entered into the synchronized block. For example, what this block is going to do is just it is going to print, right? It is, let us assume print 1, right? It is going to print something called as 1, 2, 3 on the output screen. It is going to print 1, 2, 3 on the output screen. Okay, so now when three threads are trying to execute this one, let us assume that the thread T1 has been entered into this block. Okay, T1 has been entered into this block. So when T1 entered, okay, only after the successful execution of T1 or until the T1 comes out of this block, T2 will not be allowed into the block because we had used the synchronized keyword. So we may get the output 1, 2, 3 and then 1, 2, 3 because thread 1 will print 1, 2, 3, thread 2 will print 1, 2, 3 and thread 3 will print 1, 2, 3. Because after the successful execution of T1 only, T2 will be allowed into the block. When T2 is in the block, no other thread is allowed, right? No other thread is allowed. And at the same time, when the T2 execution is successful, then T3 will be moved into the block. So because only one thread is allowing into the block, we are getting a correct output of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3. And let us assume there is no synchronized keyboard. There is no synchronized keyboard. And at the same time, all these threads are in the ready state. For example, it is the ready state and the three threads 1, 2, 3, that is the T1, T2 and T3 are in the ready state. Now we don't know whenever these three threads will move into the running state. For example, my computer system is following FCFS, first come first serve. T1 will be executed. So I may get 1, 2, 3, right? I may get 1, 2, 3. And if T2 is executed, I will get 1, 2, 3. And if T4 is executed, I will get 1, 2, 3. And at the same time, if my system is following round robin and the time slice is 1 second, so T1 will be executed for 1 second. Let us assume T1 will print 1. And then T2 will execute for 1 second. T2 will print 1. And then T3 will execute in 1 second. T1 will be printed on the output screen for T3. And then for the second T1 will print 2, T2 will print 2, and T3 will print 2. So the output may be 111, 222, and 333. But what we are expecting the output as 1, 2, 3 because it is a non-synchronized block, right? Because it is a non-synchronized block, any number of threads can enter into the block and the execution may depends upon CPU. And if you don't want any two threads to enter into the block, or if you don't want a thread to enter into the block unless and until the thread which was already entered into the block to complete execution, then we go for the synchronized block. So when you keep the synchronized keyword here, only one thread is allowed into the block. If you want to enter another thread, the first thread have to come out. And if you don't use synchronized block, any number of threads can enter into the block and any number of threads can execute the things. Okay, so it depends upon our need. When we don't want 2 or more threads to execute a block simultaneously, we go for synchronization. That by using synchronization, we are violating some rules of multi-threading, right? And I will explain all of those things in the next class. So with this, I am going to close today's session. And if anybody is having the doubts, you can raise your hands. And in tomorrow's session, we can see the examples. Okay, the time is already up and we had only 4 to 5 minutes. So if anybody is having the doubts, you can raise your hands. From the next session, we are going to look at the examples on multi-threading. Okay, then I am going to close today's session and thank you very much.